Hi, let's create a database called inventory. Within the folder that you created earlier, right click, click new, and click on Microsoft Access Database. Make sure that you call the database inventory. Then open the created database. Make sure you enable content so you'll be able to edit and create a new objects. Let's create the first table. The first table will be called suppliers. Click on create, table design, and let's start typing the field names and the data types in this table. I have supplier ID and the data type is number. I have supplier name, data type is short text. For this field I'll be changing some properties. I'll make the field size 40 and I'll make this a required field. I have supplier emirate, also it's short text. The field size is required 25 and this is a required field. And then I have supplier phone. This is short text. The field size is 30 and it's required. The primary key for this table is supplier ID. Right click on supplier ID, primary key. Then look at your table design, make sure that you have done everything correctly, and then save the table, and the name of the table is suppliers. Okay, after you save the table you will have it on the left side. Then you can close the table. After you have created the suppliers table, double click on the suppliers table and fill it with the data. Make sure that you type exactly the same as mentioned in your practice. And now let's create another table, but before we start let's make sure that you have closed the table you already created or any open object. Go back to create, table design, and let's create a table called parts. I have part number, part description, and supplier number. The part number is of type number. Description will be short text, and the size of this short text field will be 80 and it's a required field. And finally we have supplier number. It should be of type number, exactly the same like the supplier ID in the table suppliers, because this will be used to make the relationship between the two tables. The primary key for the parts table is the part numbers. Then save the table and call it parts. Now you have the table parts created on the left side. Double click on the table parts and fill it with data. Now we have the table parts filled with data, and that, as you can see here, we have some supplier numbers assigned to different parts, and this is the primary key used in the table suppliers. Make sure that you use numbers here that exist in the table suppliers. And now let's make the relationship between the two tables. Database tools, relationships. You need the two tables, the suppliers table, you double click, and the parts table, then close this dialog box. To make the relationship, the one-to-many relationship between the suppliers and the parts table, click on the supplier ID and drag it over the supplier number, and don't forget to enforce referential integrity. Then click create. Now we have the one-to-many relationship created and the referential integrity enforced to ensure consistency between the two tables. Then close this dialog and make sure that you save the changes you have made. Now I'll create a form for the table suppliers and another for the table parts. Create form wizard. I'll select the table suppliers. I'll move all the available fields to the right side. These are the selected fields to include in the form, and then I click finish. And now you have the suppliers form created. Close the form and create another one for the table parts using the form wizard. The table parts is selected, and I will move all the available fields to the right side, and then I'll click finish. And this is the second form ready for the parts table. I'll create now a report using the wizard. In this report I'll use two tables, or I'll select different fields from the two tables. First I'll select from the table supplier the field supplier name. In the same screen I'll select the table parts, and I will take the part description. Then I click next. Here, how do you want to view your data? I want you to view it by suppliers, and then click next. Here, if you want to add any sorting level, in this case I will sort by part description, and I'll leave it as ascending order. The layout, I prefer the stepped layout and the portrait orientation, and then I click next. Here you might give a name for your report. I'll keep the same, and then I click finish. And now you have the report created. Let's create a query using the query design. To create a query, you should first add the tables. I need in this query the suppliers table and the parts table. I need the specific fields from each table. I'll take the supplier name from the table suppliers and the supplier emirate, and I need the part description from the table parts. And as you see, by double clicking on the fields, you will have them down in this area. Now I want to add the criteria. I don't want all the records, I want only the suppliers or the parts requested from suppliers located in the Emirate Abu Dhabi. That's why under the Emirate field next to criteria I will type Abu Dhabi, and then I'll save the query. I'll give it the name Abu Dhabi supplier parts. Now you have the query created. You might check your work by running your query, and you should get only Abu Dhabi in the result. Well, now I will do the same. I'll create another query, but this time I'm looking for Dubai suppliers. Create query design. I'll add the table supplier and the table parts, and then I'll select the fields from the table supplier and the fields from the table parts, and I'll make sure that below the supplier emirate next to criteria I will type Dubai. Make sure that you type the text here exactly the same as it was typed into the table, and then save the query. I'll call it Dubai supplier parts. Now the query is saved. I might double click on the Dubai supplier parts, and I should get only the parts supplied by companies located in Dubai. Thank you. That's all for this Access practice.